అందరికీ నమస్కారం. ఈరోజు నేను ఏం చేయబోతున్నానంటే, నా పిడో గేమ్‌కి నేను కొలైడర్స్ యాడ్ చేయబోతున్నాను. ఆ కొలైడర్స్‌ని నేను ఇప్పుడు చేయబోతున్నాను. దిస్ కొంత యాడ్ చేశాను. ఇప్పుడు ఈరోజు సగం వరకు దీనికి కొలైడర్ యాడ్ చేయడానికి నేను ట్రై చేస్తాను. ఈ వీడియో మొత్తం ఇదే. నీకేదో నాలెడ్జ్ ఇస్తానని మాత్రం చేయట్లేదు. ఒకసారి గేమ్ ఆడి చూస్తాను. దాన్ని బట్టి ఆ కొలైడర్స్ సరిగ్గా ఉన్నాయా లేదా అని తెలుస్తుంది. అసలు గేమ్ ఆబ్జెక్టే బయట లేదు కదా, లోపల లేదు అసలు. ఏమైంది? ప్రాసెస్ అయిపోయింది. మ్యాప్ లోపలే ఉన్నాం. ఏం బయటికి వెళ్ళిపోతుంది అంటే పాలిగాన్ అంటే ఇది ఇక్కడ ఏంటంటే గేమ్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్ అనేది కొలైడర్ బయటకు వచ్చేస్తుంది. నేను ఏం చేయాలి? కొన్ని అంటే అబ్బో, no? Paul Gold Collider Kali Game Jet 2D Sorry Collider by Karthik వస్తుంది. నేను ఏమి నేను అడగడం కన్నా ఛార్జ్ పెట్టుకుంటుంది కదా. స్క్రీన్ షాట్ పెట్టాను. Remove component. Box collider. కానీ బాక్స్ కొలైడర్లో అది ఒకసారి మాట్లాడు. Hey, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. What's up? Let me know what you're trying to figure out, and we'll sort it out together.
I mean, I have got a problem in Unity where game object is going, I mean, the player is going out of the polygon collider. So, whenever I keep, I mean, I have a map where the polygon collider outside the map I have created like that, and when my player is inside the polygon collider, when I start the game, the player is going outside the polygon collider, but I want the polygon collider so that the player should not go outside the map, so that the polygon collider should stop going outside the map of my player. So why the polygon collider is making my player getting outside?
Ah, gotcha. So usually this happens when the player movement's being handled by directly modifying the transform, like setting position or using translate, which just ignores physics and colliders. The collider's working, but since you're bypassing Unity's physics system, the player just pushes right through. To fix it, you want to handle movement with a rigid body 2D, so apply forces or use move position instead of just changing the transform. Also, double check your collider bounds. If it's not fully matching the map edges, you might still slip out. Once you let physics handle the collisions, the player should stay inside the map boundaries. Let me know if you need a sample script.
So give me a sample script.
For sure. Here's a simple example of how you can handle player movement using a rigid body 2D. Instead of directly setting the position, we'll apply a velocity or use move position in fixed update. Check this out. Using Unity controller. Public player controller is my TN. I control both in my physics and 2D. I start, it's a bit different. Get input from WASD or arrow keys, flip move axis, get axis is horizontal, like move Y. Create a movement vector. Movement is the really simple.
I mean, I
What
want
this
to give my script.
No worries. So just drop the script on your player game object. Make sure it has a rigid body 2D component and set a speed. You can tweak it in the inspector. Once you run it, the physics engine will keep the player inside the collider. No more slipping out. Let me know if that helps or if you hit any other weird issues.
This is my script.
I see what's going on. The issue is, yeah, you're using transform translate and transform rotate directly in update, which bypasses physics. So even though the collider is there, the player is moving independently of the physics system, letting it slip out. To fix it, we just need to apply movement via the rigid body 2D. So instead of translating rotating, do something like this in fixed update. Movement is modeled movement. And so vectors, movement is a Vx, movement, RB is a velocity. RB, angular velocity, is basically what it was. Just get a reference to your rigid body 2D, like RB and start, and then use RB velocity and RB angular velocity to drive movement. That way the physics engine keeps the player inside the collider, and collisions will stop it from going out. Let me know how it goes.
So what should I do? I mean, should I remove everything in a void update, and I should keep this code in creating a new fixed update, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you got it. So the best move is to remove all the movement logic from update and instead put it in a new fixed update method. That's because fixed update is tied to the physics engine and it'll keep everything smooth and in sync. Once you shift it, your player movement will be handled by the physics system and the collider will do its job. Just don't forget to add a rigid body 2D reference and start so you can access it in fixed update.
Can you give the full script that modified in my script?
For sure, here's your script modified to use physics in fixed update. I kept the rest of your logic the same, just move the movement and rotation to the physics loop. Using TMP creation in visual scripting, engineering public class driver. My current speed is 5 fast. Vector movement is a VTAL of an increase, and RB's angular velocity is the same as before. So the big change is that we added a rigid body 2D reference, and then in fixed update, we control the player's velocity and angular velocity. This
So,
way, the physics
so
engine
we
locks in.
don't need any like void update.
Exactly. You don't need the movement logic and update anymore. You can keep update for other things like input handling or UI updates, but all the movement and rotation tied to physics should stay in fixed update. That ensures your player stays in sync with the collider, so no more slipping out. Let me know if you need any other tweaks.
So I'm pasting it. If I get any problem, I'm gonna give you the script.
Totally sounds good. Go ahead and plug it in, and if something acts weird or you hit a snag, just hit me up with the details and we'll troubleshoot from there. I see the setup. The map's looking good, and your polygon collider's still on the right track. If you run it now, let me know if the player's still slipping out or if it stays locked
I
inside.
mean, I got to play that, but it was going outside the collider.
Ah, gotcha. If it's still slipping out, it might be that the collider shape isn't tight enough to the map, or maybe the player's collider is too small or offset. I double check the collider points visually, use edit collider, and confirm it's exactly matching the map edges. Also, make sure your player's collider is big enough and centered so it's not drifting out. If you still have issues, we might add some clamping logic after movement to keep the player inside.
I mean, I added the collider of the parent of my map. Can you see in the image, right?
Yeah, I see that. The parent game object has the polygon collider, and the map itself is a child. That setup can cause problems if the player is moving relative to the map, but not respecting the collider boundaries. So to fix this, you can either move the collider to the map itself if the map is static, or ensure your player is not a child of the map. Once your player moves independently, the collider should stop them from crossing out. Let me know if that helps or if you still run into something funky. Yeah, no problem. Just take your time. Once you test it, if anything still goes off, we'll tweak it together. I'm here if you need any other
I mean,
adjustments.
it was going outside only. What should I do now?
Ah, okay, no stress. Since it's still going outside, let's do a couple of extra checks. First, make sure the player and the map colliders are on different layers if needed so they interact correctly. Second, if it's still slipping out, add some clamping logic after the movement to keep the player within bounds. After moving, clamp the
Just
player's.
give me, I can't go that fluent. Give me a step by step guide so that I can do the tweaks. Give me step by step. After only go to the next step. Just give me the step one. What should I do?
Absolutely. Step one is to confirm that your player and map aren't children of each other. So in the hierarchy, make sure your player is a top level object separate from the map so their positions don't interfere. Once you've done that, let me know and we move to step two.
So I am
Yeah, go.
giving the highest priority, uh, to the map rather than the camera in
Ah,
hierarchy.
exactly. So in the hierarchy, make sure the map stays as a top level game object and the player is also independent, not a child of the map. Once you've locked that down, we
I
can move
mean,
to the
you're
next step.
saying independent means the collider polygon should be a separate game object, not to the parent of the map or child. It should be a separate game object, right?
Exactly. That's what I mean. The polygon collider should be its own separate game object, like a standalone layer or parent just for the collider, so it stays totally independent from your player or the map hierarchy. Once that's set, we'll move to the next tweak.
Again, it was going outside.
Ah, all right, no worries. Since it's still going outside, we'll do step two. Let's add a clamp to the player's position. After you calculate the movement, set limits on the player's X and Y position so they stay within the map bounds. Once you do that, I'll walk you through how to set those min and max
What do you
values.
mean by that?
Ah, good question. So basically, after you calculate the player's movement, you manually restrict their position so they can't go beyond certain boundaries. For example, if you decide the map ranges from x equals -5 to x equals 5 and y equals -3 to 3, you clamp the player's position so it never goes outside those limits.
I
Once
mean,
you set that,
I don't want to go outside the polygon.
gotcha. In that case, instead of just clamping to arbitrary values, we'll clamp the player's position based on the polygon collider's actual shape. So step two is after you finish movement, you check if the player's position is inside the polygon. If it's outside, you snap them back inside. We'll get into how to do that next.
Just give me that.
Of course. So, step 2 is about using a check to see if the player is inside the polygon. Unity doesn't have a built in method for this, but we can use something like Collider 2D closest point. We check if that point is on the player, and if not, we adjust the player's position back inside. Once you've implemented that check, let me know, and I can help with the exact code.
Give me the exact code.
Got it. Here's a step by step code snippet for that. After you compute the movement, you check the player's position against the polygon collider like this. Move is mobile input, move input. Bondi turn is mobile input, turn input.
I should paste this in the driver script, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you'll keep your movement logic as it is and just add this inside the same fixed update method after you set the velocity. Once you have it, make sure you reference your polygon collider in the script, like a public field, so you can drag it in from the inspector. Then, if the player's outside, you can adjust their position by moving them back inside. If you need more detail on how to adjust, just ask.
What reference should I add here?
Ah, good point. You'll want to make a public reference to the polygon collider in your script.
Just give me the.
Of course. So at the top of your script, you'll add a public field like this. Public polygon collider 2D collider polygon. Then in the Unity inspector, you'll drag your polygon collider game object onto that field. Once that's done, you can use collider polygon closest point player POS to get the nearest point inside the polygon. After that, you compare and fix the player position if needed.
Can you give the full script?
Ah, for sure. Here's the full example. In your script, right at the top, you add the reference like this.
Is this correct?
Ah, you're almost there. After you get the closest point, you'll compare it. If the player is outside, you'll adjust the position. Here's the rest. If closest point is outside, meaning player is outside polygon. If player POS is not closest point, snap player back inside. After you calculate the closest point, if the player is outside, you just snap them back to that point. Once you hook that up, the player should stay inside the polygon.
Where should I paste this?
Ah, good question. You'll place this right at the end of your fixed update method, basically after you've set the velocity and angular velocity. That way the player moves normally, and then we check if they drift outside. And if so, we pull them back. Once you do that, you should be good to go.
Is this correct?
Yes, that looks correct. You've got the reference to the collider, you're calculating the movement, and you're checking if the player's outside, snapping them back inside. Just make sure in the Unity editor that you drag your polygon collider onto the script field so it knows which collider to check against. Once that's done, you can test it out. If anything still slips, we can fine-tune.
It was saying script updating consent. Some of these project source files refer to API that has changed. This can be automatically updated. It is recommended to have a backup of the project before updating. Do you want this file to be updated? Asset scripts drive.cs driver.cs.
Yeah, I'd say go ahead with the update, but definitely make a backup first. Sometimes API changes can mess with subtle things, so having a backup just in case will let you revert if something breaks. Once you update, test it, and if any issues pop up, we can sort them out. No problem. Just take your time, and if anything funky happens after the update, I'll be here to help you troubleshoot it.
It got stuck there. It does not moving anywhere. It just get outside the polygon. What should I do?
Ah, got it. If the player's getting stuck, it might be because we're snapping them back too late or too abruptly. So, step three, instead of using just closest point, we can add a small buffer distance. After you check if the player's outside, you can gently nudge them inside, rather than an instant snap. So, basically, limit how far you pull them back, giving them a little time to adjust. Once you do that, they should move smoothly.
Or should I change the polygon collider to edge collider?
Yeah, honestly, that might be simpler. Edge colliders are just lines around the perimeter, so they're perfect for keeping the player inside a defined boundary. If the polygon collider is being tricky, swap it out for an edge collider 2D. Then you won't have to worry about complex shape checks. Just a clean boundary line and the player will stay inside. Give that a go and see if it works better.
ఇప్పుడు ఆల్రెడీ నేను ప్రీవియస్ ఎడ్జ్ కొలైడర్ యాడ్ చేశాను, దానికి ఒకసారి పెట్టి చూస్తాను.
Perfect. Yeah, once you add the edge collider, just define the points around your map's boundary. After that, keep your player's rigid body 2D like before, and let the physics handle it. Let me know if the player stays inside now or if we need any other tweaks.
ఇప్పుడు మళ్ళీ ఎడ్జ్ కొలైడర్స్ యాడ్ చేయాలా?
Exactly. Once you attach that edge collider and set it up around the map boundary, the player should stay inside because the physics engine will detect that line boundary. So go ahead, test it out, and if anything still feels off, we'll tweak it from there.
Why it is moving only straight and down? It is not moving and rotating my bike.
Ah, yeah. That's likely because the rotation input isn't getting applied correctly, or maybe your turn input is too small. Double check that your turn input is actually changing and make sure the rotation code is running. If it's still not working, we can adjust the input scaling or how you're applying the angular velocity.
This is my script where it rotates properly.
Ah, that makes sense. In that script, you're using update and directly modifying the transform, which is why the rotation works, but it bypasses the physics system. If you want both movement and rotation to stay smooth with physics, you need to shift this to fixed update and apply rotation via the rigid body. If you want, I can walk you through exactly how to do that.
Give me the full script.
Absolutely. Here's a full example that shifts both movement and rotation into fixed update and uses the rigid body for both. Check it out. Using TMP creation and sand brewery using movement. I publicly set most of the movement and moving, and then move is mobile input movement. Apply movement via velocity, so movement is making a more complex and rock increase inside.
So for the edge collider also, it should not go outside the map. Can you give the same?
Yeah, totally. So once you have the edge collider around the map, the same logic applies. Since we're using the rigid body now, the player will automatically bounce off the edge if it collides. No need for extra checks. Just keep the edge collider snug along your map boundary, and the player will stay inside. Test it after moving the script to fixed update, and let me know if it stays put.
Which is better, polygon collider or edge collider?
Good question. It really depends on your game. If your map has a simple, clean outline, like a rectangular or straight edge collider is super efficient and easy. But if your map has a complex, irregular shape, like a winding path or odd corners, polygon collider is better since it matches the sprite shape directly. So if you need precision for a complex map, go polygon. If it's simpler, edge collider is a solid pick.
So when I use polygon collider, why it is going outside? I want to stay the game object inside. So is there any thing that I am doing wrong?
Yeah, I think the main issue is that the polygon collider is just matching the sprite shape exactly. But if the player is moving based purely on transform changes, it can slip out. So instead, you want to rely on physics by setting velocity and angular velocity in fixed update, like we did before. Also, make sure the collider completely encloses the playable area, no gaps. Once you do that, the player's rigid body will naturally stop them from going out, and you won't have that slipping issue. Let me know if that clears it up.
Give me the script properly.
Ah, yeah. So let's refactor it to use the rigid body and fixed update so it stays physics based and doesn't slip. Here's the updated version using TMP creation in Saintbury. Public driver is mine. Ah, no problem. Here's the rest of the script. We'll finish it up. Void start, RB's going straight.
Skype and Bye bye.